No competition like no I in my team. No, all they wishful thinking or is it a nice dream? And we can see them coming, no need for high beam. Decision making, change a player, just do the right thing. Wasn't with me in the gym, so how can you contest? Walk on hilltop and ran many miles to beat them.
Welcome to Post Point. I'm your host, Winton McCullough. Hey, it's time to talk some sports, y'all. I'm glad you decided to talk some sports with me. Today, we're going to pivot just a little bit. We're going to be talking sports, but more so what's going on in sports media. There's a LeBron James story that's not really a story. Cam Newton has some things to say, and Jeff Teague has some comments as well that needs to be addressed. We're going to be exposing the buffoonery today. Let's start the show.
Don't know what team I'm on, but I'm like how you see my chest. Look my uniform, I'm having it proudly way I'm dressed. The more I'm getting better, me more you getting worse.
This episode of Post Point is brought to you by independent insurance salesperson Wanda Washington, a local independent life insurance agent that can get you covered even with health issues. No medical exam and no one is turned down. Call or text Wanda Washington at 843-245-0206 for your no obligation quote. She could save you thousands of dollars. Just contact her at 843-245-0206 and let her help you and your family. All right, so first, let's talk about the LeBron James story that's not really a story. And that's really the trade talks and the back and forth that's been going on between the Lakers and LeBron. Not really so much a back and forth. LeBron put some statements out, but people in sports media, a lot of insiders have made this a story, and it's not really a story. LeBron, the Lakers hit this offseason. They prioritized the big man, and they targeted a big man, DeAndre Ayton, and they wanted to make sure they got their guy. So they didn't go out and make moves that would hinder them from getting DeAndre Ayton. They didn't bring back Dorian Finney-Smith. A lot of people was upset about that. And they brought in a shooter who's not a perimeter defender from Sacramento, Jake I can't pronounce his last name. But they brought him in. A lot of people, want more defense on the perimeter, which the Lakers do need, but they prioritize the big man. So they really didn't make no moves to start out, and they got DeAndre Ayton. And a lot of people had a lot to say. Now, LeBron made a statement. Well, Rich Paul put the statement out. Rich Paul put a statement out back and clarified the statement. Now, this made a lot of noise in people who are in sports media, a lot of insiders. They broke down the statement. They was basically saying that LeBron is putting pressure on the Lakers to have them make moves, which I wouldn't say is putting pressure on the Lakers. I feel that the Lakers have made an adjustment with how they're handling business, and LeBron has to take a different avenue than he normally has to take. LeBron is normally connected to what's going on in the front offices, and basically the Lakers are, to me, icing out all players. They're not going that route where players are so much involved, which a lot of front offices are taking this route. So LeBron used a different avenue that a lot of people use. It's also depicted in 2K. It's a normal avenue that players use, which there was a Rich Paul put the statement out saying that they basically want to be sure that the Lakers are prioritizing winning, even though the Lakers came out and basically said they're prioritizing building around Luka, and that might not mean winning right away. Some could take, especially when you are slow to make moves, that like the Lakers were slow to make moves this offseason. So the statement was put out by Rich Paul. Here's where the story became a story, which it really shouldn't have been a story. People in sports media start speculating at that point, saying LeBron wants out. LeBron is not happy with the situation in LA. And this is the first time LeBron he's not the man. And, he's lashing out to say, hey, I'm still here. Like, that's speculating, because that's LeBron didn't say that himself. There's a lot of ways you could go from the statement LeBron put out. But people start to speculate. there's a lot of trade rumors started going around, and these trade rumors didn't come from front offices. There was no trade demands made by LeBron in his camp, so that's more speculating. And LeBron eventually put out another statement saying that he plans to sign in LA after the 2026 season. The story eventually died down because let's just say LeBron did put out a trade request. Let's just say he was adamant, like he was clearly saying, I don't want to be in LA no more. This will be an ongoing story. It's not a story because insiders are just speculating at that point. Like I said, no front offices came out and said we're making moves to try to get LeBron. Now, here is why I think the story, sports media, a lot of people in sports media wanted to speak out about this situation. Really, the Luka trade, how the Luka trade went down, has threatened a lot of insiders, in my opinion. A lot of insiders gets their earns their stripes by rumors, by speculation. And once it does happen, they you know, their credibility goes up. If it doesn't happen, who cares? I remember there was a Hall of Famer, DA. He's on 2K and everything. He was an insider for the longest. But I remember when Cabello was first being his trade rumors were going on when he was in Denver, about to leave Denver. And DA put out a statement saying that the Pistons did not play Richard Hamilton in a few games leading up to a trade that I believe it happened before Carmelo got traded. And the rumor was that there was going to be a three-way trade between the Pistons, the Nets, and Denver, sending Denver to Brooklyn. I mean, sending Carmelo to Brooklyn, and Pistons will get some, of course, get some parts of the trade as well. Well, Richard Hamilton never got traded to Brooklyn. Richard Hamilton did set out, but he was traded to the Bulls. Carmelo never played in Brooklyn. And in my opinion, DA did that because Chris Broussard, who is money in the sports media space. Chris Broussard is an OG. He was the one who broke the news that LeBron was going to Miami. If I'm not mistaken, he did say per his sources. He didn't come out and say that he talked to Wade and Bosh or LeBron themselves or Pat Riley themselves and the deal was basically done. But he the one who came out first. It said per his sources, LeBron is going to Miami before the decision was announced. It's about a bit earlier that same day because the decision took place in the evening earlier, maybe a few hours before Chris Broussard put that out. And Chris Broussard stock went through the roof after this decision was made. And I think DA was playing on that when he said what he said about the three-way trade where Carmelo would go to Brooklyn. But again, Carmelo never played in Brooklyn. Richard Hamilton never was traded in a three-way trade as well. He went to Chicago. So, in my opinion, sports media insiders are doing a lot of speculating because they don't want to get caught in a win. They don't want to get left behind the eight ball when a big trade drops like they were when Luka was traded, which this threatens their credibility. They want to be in a loop, but the front offices for the Mavericks and front offices for the Lakers, like said, it's going to be a small loop, and only one man's getting this story if they don't want to be left behind again. So that caused a lot to speculate. There were so many people coming out with stories about LeBron. Is he happy in LA? Where is he going to go? There was a big story about him playing in Dallas. Like, none of that is a story. The only people talking about that are insiders who are speculating. And one insider, Brian Windhorst, it's almost like I was confused just watching his take on this, where he was like, yeah, the statement was put out for a reason, and the response LeBron gave was for a reason. And yeah, LeBron knows it looks funny if he goes to Cleveland, even though LeBron goes to Cleveland just about every offseason. And then he came out and said, "I don't know" statement. Well, you should have said that in the first place. Like you don't. There's no need to speculate from that point if you don't know. You can't even say if LeBron knew Rich Paul put that statement out. We like to think he did. But LeBron and Rich Paul, I like to think they have a relationship where the Rich Paul is doing LeBron a favor by putting that statement out. We can't know for sure that LeBron knew he put that statement out. I say that because LeBron put out a clarifying statement after that statement was put out. So there's a lot of speculating going on. These insiders, I feel they feel threatened, so they're going to start doing a lot of speculating. But LeBron cleared all of that up. He plans to sign back in LA after the 2026 season. And now that story has died down. That's just something to watch for from a lot of these NBA insiders. All right, so let's move on to Mr. Cam Newton, in which Cam Newton has the sports media world on fire right now with his takes and his responses to a lot of other people about his takes, in which
with the talent that he has around him. Hurts does not have to play elite for the Philadelphia Eagles to win. We're not asking you to win the game. We're just asking you not to lose it. But when you ask that question, are we winning because of you, solely because of you? Or is it the resources around you? So game changer, game manager, those are the things that you have to ask yourself. And those are the metrics that I'm going off of.
Okay, so here we are again with this. We did this last offseason with Cam, and we're doing it again. Do you feel, though, that response is disrespectful to Jalen Hurts?
We have to stop allowing people to have excuses to disrespect Jalen Hurts. Cam recently said I was playing things safe, so let me cook for a second here, right? So there's different ways to look at it. Historically and presently, Jalen Hurts is the top 10 quarterback, and you're going to look at it different ways. You're going to look at talents above X's and O's, the ability to help your team win, and then to me, it's proximity to the GOAT. Let's take Cam Newton, right? What made Cam Newton great? He could be powerful in short yardage and goal line. He could extend plays with his legs. He was this big physical presence. So is Jalen Hurts, right? Cam Newton went to the playoffs 4 times. Jalen Hurts been to the playoffs 4 times already. Cam Newton went to 3 Pro Bowls. Jalen Hurts already been to 2. Cam Newton was an MVP, and he got to the Super Bowl, and he forgot to bring his cape. And the last thing is this, right? Cam Newton is using excuses to not put Jalen Hurts in the top 10. Excuses are tools of incompetence that build monuments of nothingness, and those who major in their usage are non-achievers. The ring that Jalen Hurts is walking around with says top 10 to me. Tell Cam to show you his.
I feel that this is just a media strategy by Cam. Some of it is. I feel that Cam Newton doesn't realize some of the energy that he's getting off. But first, I want to address a few things. Let's talk about his media strategy. Cam Newton, he's a guy who is known to be rough around the edges. He uses French words without saying, please excuse my French, if you know what I mean. But he's also a professional. You know, you're basically trained to be a professional when it comes to talking to people of the media when you're a player. So I say that because Cam Newton as a player, you know, he didn't use those few choice words in press conferences. He was candid in press conferences, not like he is now in the podcasting space, but yeah, you know, he knows how to be a professional. I say that because the first time Cam Newton, when he made his appearance on First Take, Cam Newton said 2 blatant cuss words. Cuss words where you know you're going to get fined by saying it. And you could tell that it wasn't a oops, you know. It wasn't a oops, my bad, I didn't mean to say that type moment. It was deliberate. In my opinion, it was like Cam talking to his fan base like, yeah, I'm here, but I'm going to be me regardless. You know what I'm saying? But that wasn't the case, you know. He didn't have any oops moments after that. You know, I'm pretty sure either the producer, Stephen A. is an executive producer. I'm pretty sure they talked to him. But it seemed calculated to me. It's almost like he knew what he was doing. A media strategy. He also has some things to say about Shedeur Sanders. Don't quote me on this, but he said something around the lines of Shedeur doesn't like to be challenged. Now that's a lie. That's a lie because Shedeur brother, Bucky, he he puts you in their business. Not all of their business, of course, but Bucky films just about everything that's going on when Shador was in Jackson State, when Shador was in Colorado, and I frequent Well Off Media, which Bucky is the CEO of Well Off Media. Watching Shador for the past 4 years, he is somebody who will recognize the challenge before anybody else. And even if other people recognize it, he's the first one calling out the challenge, and he meets the challenge head on. It's a challenge being Deion Sanders' son in the first place. It's a challenge going from Jackson State to Colorado. It's a challenge playing behind Colorado's offensive line, period. When you know that you're going to get hit. You know, in practice and training camp, hey, I got this pass off, but when the bullets start flying for real, I know that this is going to be a hit. When you know practicing leading up to games, I'm going to take plenty of hits, but you show up week in and week out, and you never throw your O-line under the bus. That's somebody who recognizes the challenge, is willing to step up to the challenge. Now, here is where the rift between Cam, because Cam never made this statement before this particular thing that I'm about to say happened. Cam said something about Shador, and it could have, because I didn't see the statements that he said about Shador before Cam made an appearance at a Buffalo's game. Shador went on the field to approach, or Cam went on the field to approach Shador, and in my opinion, when I first saw that, even though I didn't see the statements that Cam Newton made, I knew that Cam Newton said something on his podcast that Shador felt Cam should have said about him first. Shador should have heard it from him before he heard it from saw it on Cam's podcast. Like, that was based on the exchange. That's basically what went through my head. I think that could have went through anybody's head. Yet Cam never addressed that. Cam took what he said and how Shador responded. It says Shador basically doesn't like to be challenged. I don't get that. I get that, he felt you should have hit him up, about what you said, about what Cam Newton said, and Cam Newton didn't. So Shador really didn't have nothing to say to him, and that's perfectly fine. Cam Newton has the right to say what he want to say about anybody, but that is the blowback that you do get. I wouldn't say a person doesn't like to be challenged because of that. Let's go to what is Cam Newton has this space on fire about now. He came out and said that Jalen Hurts is not elite. He can't be a Cam Newton's top 10 because all that Jalen Hurts has around him. And Philly is not winning because of Jalen Hurts. Basically, in a way, he's saying Philly has to scheme to win with Jalen Hurts' deficiencies. So that caused a lot of people to respond to Cam Newton. Ryan Clark, Gilly the Kid, had a funny take about the situation. Cam is standing on business about his stance. Unc and Ocho Nightcap did respond to it, and their response was accurate. Asante Samuel has something to say about it. His response was pretty accurate as well, in which basically their response is Asante Samuel and Nightcap. Basically, Cam does have the right to his opinion, as does anybody. And Ryan Clark responded to it like Ocho said, it's fun. Like Unc said, they're getting their clicks up. Cam, in my opinion, more so is getting his clicks up. Ryan Clark already has an established base, and Cam has an established base too. But I'm gonna get to why I feel he wants to boost his platform at this moment in time. But I don't really think it's about the opinion Cam has. That's one. There's another point. But first, let's stick to one. I don't think it's the opinion Cam has. I think it's the energy that he gives off. Communication is only 30% verbal. 70% is your presentation as a whole, body language, energy, and everything. Cam Newton will give his opinion, But his energy, how he gives his opinion, says so much more. Let's take what he said about game managers. Cam Newton, he was giving off his energy and he gave his take about game managers and game changers and who fits in one mold and who doesn't fit in another mold. And the way he said it, it was like he was diminishing people who are known as game managers, in which the greatest quarterback of all time is known as a game manager. He could just consistently make the right decision in Tom Brady. But to stay on point, I say that because Cam Newton was called out. Well, I wouldn't say called out, but ESPN addressed that take about a year ago, and Cam Newton responded. And when he responded, his energy was different. It's kind of like you understood where he was coming from based on how he responded. But now it's a little different. Now it's like his energy is deliberate. He said it in response to a Ryan Clark take. He basically said that Ryan Clark is being safe and that Cam, I'm going to be me regardless. I get all that. But in this space, in sports media, especially when you're on a national platform, you do have to be a little calculated because you got to keep sources open. You got to have people that want to collaborate with your platform and things of that nature. So you do have to be a little calculated. Not to say that you don't have to be yourself, but when you know that you're giving off a certain energy professionally, if you could adjust how you're giving off that energy, not to say to adjust your opinion, then do what's best for business. Cam Newton, in my opinion, is using, I wouldn't say using, but Cam Newton is deliberately putting out takes to boost his credibility because there's a show coming out, 106 in Sports, and that's going to be on BET. And I believe that it's going to be produced on the LeBron James platform. And it's going to be Cam Newton and a few other hosts. And I think that Cam Newton is boosting his platform, which is understandable. However, how it's going about it is rubbing people the wrong way. In my opinion, it's a stretch. BET is not a platform for a sports show. I do think that some HBCU games used to be played on BET, but it's not a platform for a sports show. So, I hope it does well, but I could see why he's trying to boost his platform because he's going back and forth. T.O. said it himself. This is a Skip Bayless type energy, and it is. The difference between Skip Bayless and Cam Newton, you could tell that the takes that he gives is genuinely who he is. He's not trying to boost a platform. He's not trying to sell something else with the takes that he gives. Cam Newton, the takes that he's giving, you could tell is deliberately. You could tell that is clout chaser, like Gilly the Kid said. Gilly the Kid take about Cam Newton was funny. But yeah, like let's take his logic, right? He has Josh Allen as the number one quarterback, Lamar Jackson as the number two quarterback, and then he has Pat Mahomes. Come on, man. There's no quarterback in the league better than Pat Mahomes right now. I'm not even a big Pat Mahomes fan. As a matter of fact, I don't like how people made him put him in the GOAT category so early in his career. But Cam Newton has Pat Mahomes as a number three quarterback. Now, let's talk about his logic. He basically diminishes Jalen Hurts because all that Jalen Hurts has to work around him. The Chiefs was depleted at the skills position last year. Injuries deplete. They had people in and out. They even brought in some people that were talented back in their day, like DeAndre Hopkins. But DeAndre Hopkins ain't playing on a high level anymore. It was depleted at skill position. Travis Kelce was not the normal Travis Kelce. And then the offensive line wasn't up to par. They had to move their guard to tackle, and the guard got exposed in the Super Bowl. So Pat Mahomes was still able to get his team to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson didn't make it to the Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes did make it to the Super Bowl, yet, and they all play in the same conference, yet you got those other guys ranked higher than them, guys who had better teams around them last year. That doesn't match your logic. On top of that, Pat Mahomes still could do what you say boosts a quarterback's credibility or ranking in your list. He could make plays outside of the realm of the play that is called, outside of what's schemed up. He still could make plays. So their logic is not adding up. And to me, it's not added up because it's clickbait. He wants to cause controversy, to cause ratings, to cause his platform to blow up, which he's doing a good job of because this week has been about Cam Newton takes. Another thing is, some takes Cam gives, it's like he doesn't fully do his homework about the take. Like, I feel that he had a take saying the Dallas Cowboys are trying to tank for Arch Manning.
I think they tanking for Arch. Make it make sense. Okay, Cam.
Wow.
I don't know.
Wow.
Coach Schottenheimer has one and done written all over
I think
him.
they have to tank.
He got one and done written all over him. Okay, why do you want it done? You get the first pick of the draft. Okay, not only that, I'm going to go back into my Godfather bag and say, okay, Jerry Jones is a businessman, and he's going to get in this Don Corleone, mentality, and he's going to give him a deal that he can't refuse. Who? Nick Saban.
Right, that's when they signed Brian Schottenheimer, a coach who has no head coaching experience, who's not known as a top-tier coordinator to say that he can be a head coach. The Dallas Cowboys hired him, and Cam Newton said that, this is the Cowboys taking for Arch Manning. Now, the girl Elle Duncan was not having that.
Well,
No, it's not, and it's also not going to happen because there has been proven success in terms of just Dak Prescott's job with Brian Schottenheimer as offensive coordinator. In the 25 starts Dak's made since he's been there, he's completing almost 68% of his passes. He has almost 6,500 yards. He's got 47 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. The issue for Dallas is that they've got 22 unrestricted free agents coming up and not a lot of cap space. The issue for Dallas is that they claim every offseason that they're all in, and then they go do minimal stopgap moves, and they wait until all the good free agents are gone to start pretending like they just woke up. That's the issue for Dallas. But in terms of thinking that he put this man in this position, listen, I'm with you. It's not the sexiest pick in the world. If I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm going, oh, man, maybe they just got a guy that's an inside guy who will just sort of do Jerry's bidding, and that's maybe ultimately what he wanted, right?
I want to hear Cam respond to you because you're saying a lot. I want to hear. He's got something to say to you, El. He's been waiting to talk. He's been waiting to get at you, El.
I'm trying to respectfully let you make your point.
But we're also talking about a guy. You have your known commodity. Dak Prescott has not been perfect, but he's not the sole reason why they're not winning playoff games. And to say that they're going to tank this season after what J-Mac just said, they paid him all that money for an unknown commodity in Arch Manning. I know that they love storylines and names and Hall of Fame names. I know the pedigree, but he didn't even beat out Quinn Ewers. So you're thinking he's going to tank his whole franchise for a guy that we've never even seen
fair.
more than two starts?
No, that's not fair. That's not fair.
No,
that's not fair,
you want to get rid of the known commodity for the unknown. Y'all always want to trade in what's stable.
You can't say he didn't beat out. You can't say he didn't beat out Ewers. The fact of the matter is he had seniority. He got injured. When Manning came in, he balled, and you knew you had to go back to your veteran.
You didn't know
That's
that.
all that was. That's all that was. That's all that was. He didn't beat it. That's all I'm saying.
Fair. Ewers maybe didn't beat him out.
Saban didn't go back to Hurts.
He didn't beat him out.
He didn't. Exactly, J-Mac. Saban never went back to Jalen Hurts. And everyone was like, how could you not? Seemed to work out okay, right? And then he ultimately had to go back to it. But again.
Stop, L. He won a national. Listen, when he benched Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa won a national championship.
Fair.
That's why he didn't go back to Jalen
That's
Hurts.
right,
That's
but
why
Arch
Jalen
was-
Hurts transferred.
Arch was balling out against FCS schools. I'm just saying.
No championship.
What I'm saying is, I have no doubt Arch Manning is going to be a fantastic quarterback, and we already saw some indications of that. But the dude made like 2 starts, and to think that you are tanking for a guy who has not been the sole problem, who is one of the best producers, for an unknown commodity, that's wild to me, Cam.
The girl L. Duck was like, yo, this makes no sense. It's the same thing I was thinking. And because when you think about it, you as an organization are going to plan to tank for a guy at quarterback when you just made Dak Prescott the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he's the highest paid anymore, but at the time, Dak was the highest paid quarterback when Cam made this take. And for you to come out and make that statement, it's like you have sources telling you that the Cowboys don't plan on making no moves to get better. But a few months later, they traded for George Pickens. Not signed, they went out and traded for George Pickens to give the guy they made the highest paid quarterback a legit weapon, or the opposite, CD Lamb. Like, that's not tactics of a team that's trying to tank. And that's a huge take for you to say, yeah, the Cowboys are trying to tank for Arch Manning. They're basically going to give up this whole upcoming season for Arch Manning, a guy who you don't even know can lead a franchise. I don't know. It was a ridiculous take. L. Duncan called him on it. I think a few people on the ESPN platform kind of is letting Cam learn the ropes. So I say that because Stephen A. Smith normally doesn't let people get away with takes. When you first starting out, like Stephen A. was kind of lenient on Max. When Stephen A. was going against Skip Bayless, Stephen A. let Skip Bayless get away with nothing. Stephen A. doesn't let Mad Dog Russo get away with nothing. These are guys who are seasoned in this space. Now, when Max first came on, Stephen A. wasn't on him like that until Max came out and said Tom Brady was going to fall off a cliff. And I feel he was the same way with Cam Newton. He wasn't like that with Shannon Sharp, but Stephen A. was the same way with Cam Newton, but not L. Duncan. It was fun watching L. Duncan be like, nah, I don't know why we're talking about this right now. But okay, let's talk about Jeff Teague. Now, Jeff Teague had allegations or made some allegations that LeBron James took steroids on his podcast, on his platform. He did come back out and say that he was joking. Based on the show, like his homeboy, I don't know the dude's name, his homeboy, the funny guy on the podcast, said that you should have known he was joking. It didn't sound like he was joking when you watched the podcast, because I watched it. I went back and watched it. It seems like, Jeff Teague did a good job being sarcastic because he seemed like he knew something that nobody else knew.
He was on steroids, bro. He had to sit out. He was on steroids for real.
Now, give me
like legit was on steroids, bro. I'm allegedly, but like he had to sit out. But y'all remember when they told him like
there goes the Clutch Sports allegations.
Y'all remember that though?
No,
when they was like he got everybody. They started testing for HGH, and they was like, yo, and he had to sit out. Like he said his back was hurt, and he sat out for like 3 weeks, and he came back skinny. This is just I was in the league. I remember.
He did come back out and say that he was joking, but it caused a lot of people to scratch their heads about the situation. And I just want to clear it up because even though he was joking, when you break down what he says, it doesn't make any sense. First, he said that LeBron sat out for like a 3-week period during his play in Miami, when he was playing in Miami. That never happened. LeBron James, matter of fact, he played about 90% of the games in Miami. There was in no season that he sat out for a 3-week period when he was in Miami. And Jeff Teague also said that LeBron, when he sat out, he went from big to being small. It's like he sat out because he was trying to avoid a drug test, and then when he came back, he was smaller. Well, it was the opposite. First, he sat out when he went back to Cleveland. when he went back to Cleveland around the Christmas break time, a little after the season started, he sat out for a 2 to 3 week period. And also, when he went back to Cleveland, LeBron wanted to take on more of a guard role, playing specifically in a guard role because Miami rotated like crazy. Like when you watch those boys play, it's like the players was in the blender because they would rotate so fast. Well, in the rotations, a lot of times LeBron would be matched up with guys who were bigger than him. So it was important for him to play bigger. I think LeBron wanted to come off of that, play a lot of guard role, and he got on like some kind of keto diet. This was well documented. He lost a lot of weight, and you could tell. And afterwards, I don't know if that impacted him getting hurt or feeling discomfort to cause him to sit out the 2 to 3 weeks. But after that 2 to 3 week period, he was bigger. He played at more of a weight that I think was more complementary to what Cleveland needed him to do. So he didn't sit out and get smaller. He actually sat out and got bigger. So that's another thing. You know, a lot of people in this sports media space, a lot of people in the new media, which the new media is media led by the players, they don't realize that what they say and how they say it holds weight. Going back to Cam Newton, the energy that he gives off is a lot of where the controversy comes from. Not his take itself, but the energy he gives off. And even with the Jeff Teague situation, even though he was joking, you know, he didn't, based on his body language, based on his tone of voice, it didn't make it clear that this wasn't a legit take that he was giving. You know, he said it in a way that he normally talks. So that's why I think a lot of people took him serious and why a lot of people are still speculating, even though he came back out and said that he was joking. And, you know, when you break it down again, LeBron never sat out that long for a 2 to 3 week period. Jeff Teague said 3 weeks, but he never sat out that long when he was in Miami. And when he did sat out, when he went back to Cleveland, he actually got bigger after he sat out. Really, he was getting bigger leading up to him sitting out. He came into that season smaller than he normally was. But
this episode of Post Point is brought to you by independent insurance salesperson Wanda Washington, a local independent life insurance agent that can get you covered even with health issues. No medical exam and no one is turned down. Call or text Wanda Washington at 843-245-0206 for your no obligation quote. She could save you thousands of dollars. Just contact her at 843-245-0206 and let her help you and your family.
yeah, man, the buffoonery had to be called out. There was a lot going on in sports media this week that we had to address. I want to thank you for sitting down with me while we did talk about it. You know what to do. Follow on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. Until next time, peace.
Win the championship and why not go to Disneyland? We can change our plans like we can go and spend some bands. I'm a team player, so a loser's not a fan. The holiday season, watching sports with my fans. No competition like no I in my team. Are they wishful thinking or is it a nice dream? And we can see them coming, no need for high beams. Decision making, change a player, just do the right thing.